brain of the human brain, he broke off. The human brain couldn't do it, he said, presently, reflecting to himself. But in theory, a quasi-organism... But in theory, a quasi-organic brain might... Is that what you have? Sarah asked. Yes, Paul said. They watched the Captain Kirk to its end, and then they went to bed. But Poole sat up against his pillow, smoking and brooding. Beside him, Sarah stirred restlessly, wondering why he did not turn off the light. 11:50. It would happen any time now. Sarah, he said, I want your help. In a very few minutes, something strange will happen to me. It won't last long, but I want you to watch me carefully. See if he gestured, show any changes, if I seem to go to sleep, or if I talk nonsense, or he wanted to say if I disappear, but he did not. I won't do any harm, but I think it might be a good idea if you armed yourself. Do you have your anti-mugging gun with you? In my purse? She had become fully awake now. Sitting up in the bed, she gazed at him with wild fright, her ample shoulders tanned and freckled in the light of the room. He got her gun for her. The room stiffened into paralyzed immobility. Then the colors began to drain away. Objects diminished until smoke like they faded away into shadows. Darkness filmed everything as the object in the room became weaker and weaker. The last stimuli are dying out, Poole realized. He squinted, trying to see. He made out Sarah Benton sitting in the bed, a two-dimensional figure that doll-like had been propped up, there to fade and dwindle and dwindle. The elements collected, fell apart, then collected once again, and then the last heat energy and light dissipated. The room closed over and fell into itself, as if sealed off from reality. And at that point, absolute blackness replaced everything. Space without depth, not nocturnal, but rather stiff and unyielding. And in addition, he heard nothing. Reaching, he tried to touch something, but he had nothing to reach with. Awareness of his own body had departed along with everything else in the universe. He had no hands, and even if he had, there would be nothing for them to feel. I'm still right about the way the damn tape works, he said to himself, using non-existent mouth to communicate an invisible message. Will this pass in 10 minutes? He asked himself. Am I right about that too? He waited, but he knew intuitively that his time sense had departed with everything else. I can only wait, he realized, and hope it won't be long. To pace himself, he thought, I'll make up an encyclopedia. I'll try to list everything that begins with an A. Let's see, he pondered. Apple, automobile, Citron, atmosphere, Atlantic, tomato, aspic, advertising. He thought on and on, categories slithering through his fright-haunted mind. All at once, light flickered on. He lay on the couch in the living room, and mild sunlight spilled in through the single window. Two men bent over him, their hands full of tools. Maintenance men, he realized. They've been working on me. He's conscious, one of the mechanicians said. He rose, stood back. Sarah Benton, dithering with anxiety, replaced him. Thank God, she said, breathing wetly in Poole's ear. I was so afraid. I called Mr. Densman finally about... What happened? Poole broke in harshly. Start from the beginning, and for God's sake speak slowly so I can assimilate it all. Sarah composed herself, paused, threw up her nose, and then plunged on nervously. You passed out. You just lay there as if you were dead. I waited until 2:30 and then you did nothing. I called Mr. Densman, waking him up, unfortunately, and he called the electric and maintenance. The organic Robbie maintenance people, and these two men came about 4:45, and they've been working on you ever since. It's now 6:15 in the morning, and I'm very cold, and I want to go to bed, and I can't make it to the office today. I really can't." She turned away, sniffling. The sound annoyed him. One of the uniformed maintenance men said, "You've been playing around with your reality tape." "Yes," Paul said. Why deny it? Obviously, he had found the inserted solid strip. "I shouldn't have been out that long," he said. "I inserted a 10-minute strip only." "It shut off the tape transport," the technician explained. "The tape stopped moving forward. Your insertion jammed it, and it automatically shut down to avoid tearing the tape. Why would you want to fiddle around with that? Don't you know what you could do?" "I'm not sure," Paul said. But you have an idea. Paul said acridly. "That's why I'm doing it." "Your bill," the maintenance man said, "is going to be 95 frogs, payable in installments if you so desire." "Okay," he said. He sat up groggily, rubbed his eyes, grimaced. His head ached, and his stomach felt totally empty. "Shave the tape next time," the Promi technician told him. "That way it won't jam. Didn't it occur to you that it had the safety factor built into it so it would stop rather than..." "What happens?" Paul interrupted, his voice low and intensely careful. "If no tape passed under the scanner, no tape, nothing at all, the photocells shining upward without impedance." The technicians glanced at each other. One said, "All the neural circuit jump their gap and short out." "Meaning what?" Paul said. "Meaning it's the end of the mechanism." Paul said, "I've examined the circuit. It doesn't carry enough voltage to do that. Metal won't fuse under such slight lows of current. And if the terminals are touching, we're talking about a millionth of a watt along a cesium channel, perhaps at a 16th of an inch in length. Let's assume there are a billion possible combinations at one instant arising from the punch-out on the tape. The total output isn't cumulative. The amount of current depends on what the battery details for that model. And it's not much, with all gates open and going." "Would we lie?" one of the technicians asked warily. "Why not?" Paul said. "Here I have an opportunity to experience everything simultaneously, to know the universe in its entirety, to be momentarily in contact with all reality, something that no human can do. A symphonic score entering my brain inside of time, all notes, all instruments sounding at once, and all symphonies. Do you see?" "It'll burn you out," both technicians said. "I don't think so," Paul said. Sarah said, "Would you like a cup of coffee, Mr. Paul?" "Yes," he said. He lowered his lips, pressed his cold feet against the floor, shuddered. He then stood up. His body ached. They had me lying all night on that couch, he realized. All things considered, they could have done better than that. At the kitchen table, in the far corner of the room, Garson Poole sat sipping coffee across from Sarah. The technician had long since gone. "You're not going to try any more experiments on yourself, are you?" Sarah asked wistfully. Poole grated. "I would like to control time, to reverse it. I will cut a segment of tape out," he thought, "and fuse it in upside down. The causal sequence will then float the other way. Thereupon, I will walk backward down the steps from the roof field, back to my door, push a locked door opened, walk backward to the sink, where I will get out a stack of dirty dishes. I will sit myself at this table before the stack, fill each dishes with food produced from my stomach. I will then transfer the food to the refrigerator. The next day I will take the food out of the refrigerator, pack it in bags, carry the bags to the supermarket, distribute the food here and there in the store. And at last, at the front counter, they will pay me money for this from their cash register. The food will be packed with other food in big plastic boxes, shipped out to the city in the hydroponic plant on the Atlantic, there to be joined back to the trees and bushed, or the bodies of the dead animals are pushed deep into the ground. What would all that prove? A videotape running backward. I would now know more than I know now, which is not enough. What I want, he realized, is ultimate and absolute reality for 1 microsecond. After, it doesn't matter, because all will be known. Nothing will be left to understand or see.